we're going to start, and I want to thank you all for coming. It's not easy to organize Africans, people of African descent, but it is our calling. So be in the rain, in the sun, in the snow, or be with one person or 100 people, we have to do what we think that we should be doing beyond our idiosyncrasies, our weaknesses, and our flaws. So I'm glad to see some people I've never seen before to be in this room. And there's a friend who came all the way from New Jersey, wanted to be here. And Dr. Molefi Asante was here before on July the 16th, 2011. And it was a wonderful, great conference. And he helped us move to the next level. And we've been doing this since 2007. And we believe that we need to have a platform because there are several organizations out there and they're doing wonderful things, but we noticed that they are not trying to work together in synergy. And that's why we created this platform instead of creating another Pan-African organization, so that all those movements can come together and then discuss about Pan-African issues or discuss about Africa, the global African community. So this is our platform. We go to other people's platform, but this is ours, and we come here to network, to discuss, to learn, and then to improve our skills and to learn new skills. So today it's a privilege for me to be here and standing here next to a great man, Dr. Molefi Kete Asante, President of Afrocentricity International, the philosophical founder or theoretician of the concept Afrocentricity. And he wrote more than 60 books. And in the field of African studies and in the field of Black studies, he is a giant. And in the field of philosophy, he is a living giant on the face of earth. So when we have somebody like him who takes his time and drives from Philadelphia to come to DC and to come and teach us about current challenges, it's a privilege for us, and then we're glad to have him here. So I would like you to give a round of applause to somebody who is committed, dedicated, devoted to the cause of Africa, and the cause of the world. So tonight is going to be, despite the rain and all the problem people encountered before coming here, tonight is going to be a beautiful night. And we're going to start with Anna Mwalago. But once again, thank you all for coming here. I know it is a rainy day. You had many other things to do instead of being here. And thank you very much. So Anna Mwalago is coming to perform. And this we always do with Anna Mwalago, and then she brings something special to our events. So let's welcome Anna Mwalago.
Thank you so much, Gnaka, and thank you for the committee for always hosting us. Thank you for Dr. Molefi Asante for being here today. Everybody feeling good? Yeah. You guys, you don't seem like you feel. Everybody feeling good? Yeah. Come on, everybody stand up so we can start by singing the national anthem of Africa. I know it is the South African national anthem, but now we use it to say it's for Africa. And this, if you know this anthem, you can definitely sing with me. Oh, Sisi Geleli Africa. Malupakanyisu pondolwayo Yizwa imitandazo yetu Kosi sikelela Tina luswa polwayo God bless Africa. May her spirit rise up high. Hear the oh Spirit, descend, 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 oh Spirit, descend, oh Spirit. God bless us, God bless Africa, God bless our families. Mungu ibariki Afrika, wabariki viongozi wetu, umoja, upendo na amani. Hizi ni nguzo zetu sisi na watu wetu. Tubariki Afrika, tubariki, tubariki Afrika, tubariki, ibariki Afrika na watu wake. Mungu ibariki Afrika na watoto wake. Now you may have a seat, but again I might ask you to stand up. The DJ, I have a. Before we start, we have to get ourselves moving, right? So this is a song that is on my CD, and it's about women. Because today is women, this month is Women's Month. I'd like for us to start by celebrating our mothers, our grandmothers, our sisters, and our friends. And of course, as I always said, and I told Gnaka the other time, when Men's Month comes, I will be doing the same thing. We will be celebrating for the men. So this one is called Women of the World. And if you feel like dancing, please stand up and dance with me. This day I'm doing it differently with some music. Yeah, there you go, clap your hands. Aha! There you go, my brother. Thank you for coming and dancing. Hey! Aha! I'm still looking for dancers. My sister right there. Aha! This one is dedicated to women all over Africa and all over the world. Women in Asia, women in South America, women in North America, women in Australia, women in Africa, women in Europe. And if there are any women left in Antarctica, this one is also for them. Let them go to school, let the girls dance, let the girls sing, let them go to school, let the women work, let the women read, let them go to school, let them read and learn. Whoa, what is the way? Whoa, what's on the way? Whoa, what is the way? Whoa, what's on the way? As the flower of Africa blooms, so does a new day for the women of Africa unfold. From the time of her delivery, the African woman was known to be a liability and not a profit, a loss, not a gain. She was to be seen but not to be heard, to be abused, accused, humiliated and despised. Yet women of Africa and women of the world have evolved and transcended despite their hardship. They have survived inequalities, disintegration, physical, verbal and emotional abuse. Women of Africa have survived carrying firewood on their heads, bags of food on their backs, a child on their breast, all at the same time. Walking to the market, talking to themselves, for their voices were not to be heard, but still we rise. Hey! I still want more clapping out there and more dancing. Aha! Let them go to school, let the women dance, let the women work, let the girls read, let them go to school, let them read and learn. Whoa, what's on the way? 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 We rise because we wear many hats. We are mothers, teachers, politicians, even managers, and still humble enough to be ideal wives. We rise because our struggles have made us stronger. Thus our backbones have not weakened, but hardened to be strong as those of camels. We rise because of women who paved way for equality and justice. Women like Wangari Maathai, the first African woman to win a Nobel Peace Prize. President Ellen Johnson, the first woman to be elected president in an African country. Mother Teresa, Eleanor Roosevelt, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, and still, we still rise. So let us encourage one another, rally together to fight for new challenges of HIV, AIDS, poverty, breast cancer, and other underlying problems, yet still fighting for proper equality and respect. Let us empower one another with knowledge so we can help eradicate some of these problems. For knowledge is power and lack of it is death. Let us empower one another through education so we can teach both the boys and the girls the value of the girl child and her need to be respected. Let us empower one another economically so we can become financially independent. For we are the foundation of the home. Without us, the house cannot stand. Let us empower, partner, and work together. For to educate a woman is to educate the whole nation, because it takes a home to build a nation. Everybody, thank you. I can't dance by myself, and because this is not a dancing party, I'm going to stop here so we can start. Thank you. Hey.
Thank you very much. Once again, let's clap, for Gnaka Lagoke. She's a Pan-Africanist, and she believes in the cause of Africa. And we've been doing this with Anna since 2007. And I'm also delighted to have her each time, we can have her here with us. On March the 3rd, we launched our 2012 Pan-African conferences. The topic was about the militarization of Africa, the Eurozone crisis and the global recession, and its relationship, to the relevance of Pan-Africanism. So this year, by the grace of God, and then if you want to support this cause, we intend to organize several conferences, maybe 7 or 8. It depends on how we can do that. And today, this is our second conference. And with Dr. Molefi Kete Asante, somebody who was like us, who supported Barack Obama, and who believed that Barack Obama will bring change to the whole nation. And to the world, because he was talking about change we can believe in. And then 3 years after Obama's presidency, we realized that things are not the way we anticipated them, being in relationship with Africa or with the global African community or Black America. And today, Molefi is going to talk, and he's going to entertain us and discuss that topic. And I'm going to leave the floor to Molefi Kete Asante, so that they can teach us. Thank you, Professor, for having me.
Hotel. Brothers and sisters, I'm delighted to be here, and I want to thank Brother Gnaka for the invitation. This is, as he said, the second time that I am here. And each time I come, it is just, this is the second time, but it's just wonderful to be in the presence of so many people who have an interest in the same subject and the same topic as I have. I'm delighted to see you, to see fellow scholars, ordinary citizens like myself, and people who are Africans who are committed to the African worldview. My son told me that whenever I started to give a talk, I should give my website. So if you have a pen, you want it, my website is www.asante.net, ASANT.net, N-E-T. And my second website is MKA Institute, MKAinstitute.com. That's the Molefi Kete Asante Institute for Afrocentric Studies. And then there's a third website, which is called Afrocentricity International.org, O-R-G. Afrocentricity.international.org is an international African organization worldwide with chapters in every continent, and it is growing very rapidly. In fact, we began our European European conference in May in Paris. Paris, May 12th and 13th. So AfrocentricityInternational.org, MKAinstitute.com, and Asante.net. Let me also say, sort of to allay any fears, that given the Republican candidates running for office, I'm not one to sit here today and say I won't vote for Barack Obama. I mean, when I look at Santorum and I look at Romney and Gingrich, I see even worse things for Africa. So I just want to make that clear. So, as Gnaka said, it was true that when we saw the election of Barack Obama, we were overjoyed because we felt that here was an individual who probably understood precisely what role Africa has played in the world and what role it could play in the world. I think that we also understood, we felt that we would have someone who would make probably radical changes. What we discovered, of course, was real politics. I mean, in the sense that as a younger person, I worked with Zimbabwe in training journalists in 1980-81. And one of the things that we learned right after Mugabe came into office was that fighting in the field as a guerrilla is different from managing a government. And we found that there were some realities that set in. And I think that with Obama, what we soon learned after the euphoria, and there was a lot, I had some, because quite frankly, I felt that it was wonderful that the first black president of the United States of America would have an African name. I thought that was significant because so many black Americans were telling me I can't change my name because if I change my name, I mean, my career will go down the drain. And yet, the top person in the country has an African name, and he's president of the United States of America. So your name from John Thompson to an African name wouldn't have hurt you. At least my name never hurt me. In fact, it has made everything positive for me, and I feel better about it. But we were euphoric about Obama, but the euphoria was also because he was a remarkable historical figure. This was something that was unique. But what we soon discovered, and what I'm going to talk about today, is that Obama actually presides over a very tired empire. An empire whose hypocrisy has come back to haunt its very life and existence. And this is the problem with the Obama administration, that what we thought was that here was a possibility of an energy entering the political dynamic that would change the nature of the American society. And we unfortunately found out that in this society that he inherited, one he did not make, he didn't make it. I would not accuse him of making what he discovered. But it is almost like a man who goes into a morgue and comes out of the morgue after seeing so many corpses and so many dead bodies, comes out and his eyes are different. He's different than when he went in. And when Obama went into the White House, and he was in for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and when he came out, it was different. Because what happened was that he saw some realities there. And in fact, we saw some realities. What he inherited was a society without a good value compass. What he inherited was a society that was an embarrassment of hypocrisy on the basis of its documents. What he inherited was a society that had at its core two birth defects: the genocide of the native people and the enslavement of the Africans. What he inherited was an empire that had built itself up on the basis of the exploitation of other people. This was what he inherited. Now, you put him in the office as president, and you say, you got to do something. You got to do something for black people. You got to do something for Africa. Or you wish that he would do something. But what he said and what he understood was that, no, he is, in fact, the president of the United States of America. The United States of America is not a black nation. The United States of America is not an African nation. The United States of America, this empire that I'm talking about, is a nation that's based on the creation and the development of a long history of white racial domination in the world, and white political hegemony and white economic hegemony. In fact, the Bush administration understood this. And not only the Bush administration understood it, but it's been understood since the days of Reagan. This is Samuel Huntington's argument in The Clash of Civilization. His whole argument, you go back and read Huntington's book that became sort of the Bible for the Republicans. It's an incredible book, because what he argues is that, look, white people in the world must continue to dominate all sectors of society. We must continue to dominate, he says, this is Huntington, we must continue to dominate space. We must continue to dominate air transport. We must continue to dominate all the minerals in the world. We must continue to dominate the seas and all marine life. We must continue to dominate and control all petroleum. We have to dominate all these things. And he says, if we are united, we can do this. If we are not united, we can't do it. And then he says, we are not necessarily the smartest or the most intelligent people, but we have been the people most willing to use force to bring into existence our will. That's profound. And when you read that, you go back and read that book, The Clash of Civilization, get it out of the library if you don't have it, you see precisely the pattern of the empire. That's what the empire wants to do, to control all resources. Of course, now what we are up against is that there are other empires who also want to control. China is not sitting by the wayside. They're in Africa just like the United States. And they're in Africa in some ways in a more vigorous way than the United States. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But I just want to set this tone. Now, let me also say that what Obama inherited was a society in which fluff is a real part of the society. So that people are consumed every day with the Kardashians, with Lil Wayne, so that they're not consumed with serious ideas. They're not consumed with debating philosophies. And for the empire, that's good. You shouldn't be debating those kind of things. You shouldn't be raising any serious questions. You should be doing your thing with the Kardashians and all the entertainers and spectators and Lil Wayne with his pants hanging down. You should do all that. That's what you are. You ought to love Tyler Perry. It's a society. C.L.R. James had it right when he said that the American society was a child. That it was a child. There's a childlike quality here. That is not a serious. And he said what it means is that it's a society that does not know tragedy. But it's a society that understands comedy. But I think that since 9/11, 2001, I think there's some of that seriousness has creeped in. And I think that that discussion is being held by Pan-Africanists and Afrocentrics. If you look at the society, particularly where I come from in terms of the academy, you look at the academy, the serious discussions are with Afrocentrists and Pan-Africanists. Who else is having serious discussions about anything? The serious discussions about America and about the world and about politics and about the economy, these serious discussions are being held by intellectuals who are debating every day the whole question of what is the future of an American empire that basically has been based on patterns of hypocrisy, that the documents say one thing and the country acts in a different way. Well, I think that here's what the problem is. We have a society that believes in the pursuit of happiness, which translates is the pursuit of money, basically. I mean, don't be confused by this pursuit of happiness. It's a pursuit of money. It's a pursuit of profit. That's the basic idea. And the key to this in any society is how do you control a society like this and keep it surviving? And then, of course, you say, well, what we have to do is protect our interests. So you ask the question, what are the interests of the United States? What's the interest of the Western world? And when you discover what those interests are, then you'll see what they will fight to keep and to hold and to survive. Then you'll know what the society thinks about Africa. I'll tell you in a minute, but I'm just saying that these are I'm trying to set up the structure for you so you can understand this. We can't even say anymore that, like I used to say, Africa was betrayed. But we can't say Africa was betrayed because you can't betray somebody unless you commit to them. There's no commitment to Africa. Nobody's committed to Africa and say, this is what, now America can betray Israel. But it can betray United Kingdom. But it cannot betray Africa. There is no commitment to Africa on the part of the United States government. But there are some principles and attitudes and ideas that we do have in this country regarding Africa. And I'll mention that in a minute. But the question that I deal with is, why would Obama refuse to commit to Africa? That's the question that I ask. I mean, you got the first president of the United States of America, the greatest military force in the world, with a tremendous bully pulpit, with an opportunity to say something, to do something, and then we hear small footprints about Africa. So you have to ask the question: what's going on here? What is the interest here? Well, it's clear to me that the politician in Obama believes, not believes, he knows that white Americans, that Fox News, that all those conservative think tanks would blame him and call him the African president. And the fact is, he thinks that's bad to be called, oh, he's an African president, he's working for Africa. Because, of course, in the political circles in the West, he is the United States president. He is not the African president, and his interest should be the survival and the protection of the profit interests of the United States. That's his number one goal. How do you protect the profit interests of the United States of America? Now, I mentioned to you that the United States is like a child, but I think it's maturing, and I think that if you can get beyond the reality television programs, because that tells you basically where people are. In fact, somebody said the other day, boy, they aspire. One of their aspirations is to be on reality TV. That's what the young people are thinking. Like, just get on reality TV, I'll be famous. So, but the tragedy of all of this is the understanding that evil in the social system, this is the tragedy, that we don't understand that evil in the social system is permanent. Because we think, and this is when you're a child, you think, hey, we can just solve this thing. I mean, we work hard, or other people work hard. We just play. And as we play and other people work hard, we will solve these problems. But this is what some people call the illumination. That somehow there'll be some illumination, and all of a sudden, the American society is clear that, wow, we have resolved, we have turned the corner, we have resolved this problem. But let me tell you this: United States politicians and United States people, for the most part, I believe, are contemptuous of African power. They don't think very much of Africa. Black people don't think very much of Africa here. Mm-hmm. No, so it's not just white. Well, I mean, yeah, white people they hardly think of Africa at all. But black people don't think. If you ask, they don't think of it either. Yeah. So it's a contemptuousness about Africa itself, a contemptuousness of African power, its intelligence, its philosophy, its traditions, its religion. And let me tell you something: a lot of Africans from the continent also have the same problem. Contemptuous of Africa. So we got a problem here, right? Because yet we are connected by centuries of humiliation. We are connected by hundreds of years of fighting and resisting the hegemony of the West and of white supremacy and of colonialism and of slavery and all those things. And yet we know that our demand for respect is a legitimate demand. And one of the reasons that mighty empires like this empire have fallen before is because they have arrogance. And when you think of what's happening on the continent of Africa, you have to remember that Mugabe himself is basically right now at the vanguard of the thinking on the African continent, and therefore is the pinpoint that they are coming after next. Let me tell you something. You heard about the Trayvon Martin situation down in Sanford, Florida. And Sanford, Florida is interesting. That's actually 20 or 30 members of my family live in Sanford, Florida. The first thing my son said when he heard about the killing of this young man, the assassination, man, he said, Dad, is he one of our family members? I said, no, he's not one of our family members. But Sanford is an interesting city. You know, there was named after the man Sanford, who was the only American delegate to the Berlin Conference. He had a huge plantation in Sanford, in Sanford, Florida. They named that town after him. So the African connection with Trayvon Martin's killing and the town of Sanford is ironic in many ways. It's a strange coincidence of this situation. But we see this over and over again. I mean, take the arrest of Gbagbo, one of the greatest travesties of justice, if you ask me, in Africa. If you believe in patriotism, if you believe in democracy, if you believe in courage, if you believe in sovereignty, national sovereignty, there is no way for you to say that the arrest of Gbagbo was a legitimate arrest. There's no way you can do it if you believe in all those things. In fact, Africa knows the West is culpable in this tragedy. But we should have foreseen it. As I told you, we should have foreseen Gaddafi's demise. We should have foreseen that. This is coming, you see. Mugabe, as I said, must be cautious because the empire is seeking to silence him. And anyone who speaks for the African, those who speak for Europe, are numerous. In fact, you got Africans speaking for Europe. I mean, but you got Sarkozy speaking for Africa. I mean, he's running around the continent speaking for Africa. I'll come back to Cote d'Ivoire in a few minutes, but I just want you to know that this is what we're up against. And when you start talking about the Obama administration, you have to also see the interconnectedness. All these things are interconnected. What do Pan-Africanists, I mean, what do we learn from this? What must we learn from the given political situation we have? I think we need to learn we're on our own. Let me say that again, because we don't believe it. We're on our own. No. You don't have to look to France or to England. We are on our own. And if we could ever get through our heads, it's one of the lessons that he tried to teach us with his book from David Walker to Barack Obama, that we are on our own, that the early African thinkers who were self-determining had self-determination in their minds. Whether they were Alexander Cromwell, Martin Delany, they were self-determining people. You have to do this. African leadership must do this. And African people must do it. But I think that it's the people. I always start with the people because the people can teach everybody else. That's why we're starting the Afrocentricity International chapters. We started with masses. We're not starting with top level people. We started with the masses because ultimately when you educate the masses will make sure that the person who rises to the top believes in Africa. Amen. That's the thing that has to happen. You got it. The masses have to be educated. They have to believe this. They have to have some understanding and appreciation. We're on our own. Second thing, connecting our broken pieces must be done by starting with our history. You know, of all the people in the world, I think we African people are the least knowledgeable of our history. This saddens me because it falls in line with the thinking of one of the greatest races in history, Hegel. Hegel said in 1828, he said that's the problem with Africa. He said they're not historical people. They don't see themselves in history. They're outside of history. They're marginal to history. They don't provoke anything in history. They just on the fringes. That's what he said. Forget Africa. Let us not speak of it again because it is no part of history and there is no historical consciousness there. 1828. That's what we have been fighting. That's what Afrocentrists have been fighting against for 40 years. We said, wait a minute. This cannot be. We know that there are evidences of Africans who have their own sense of agency. There's evidence of what Africans have done. But do we have Africans who believe it? Do we interrogate our own history first? When somebody asks me something as an Afrocentrist, the first thing I do is to look at my own history. I don't go look at Europe's history. I'm not a European. You ask me who's the greatest thinker in the world. First thing I think of, black people. That's what it's not a racist idea. It's just that's how I think. That's my agency. You ask me a question. Who is the greatest thinker in the world? Who is the greatest philosopher in the world? And what pops into my mind immediately? I say, well, maybe it was Amadou Bamba. Maybe it was Ahmed Baba. Maybe it was Du Bois. You say, well, what about people in Europe? Then I'll give you some names there. What about people in Asia? I'll give you some names there. But the first thing I have to think about, I have to interrogate my own history. That's Afrocentric. Everybody does. Everybody else. That's what everybody do. The European, you think when you ask the European that question, you think the European will give an African name? No. It's because they know their history and they interrogate their own history. And we need to learn to do that. And no politician can do that unless they have been trained ideologically to think for themselves. We need a comprehensive strategy based on ideological conditions. Now, again, only place on the continent where there is no strategy that you can say, this is an African philosophy that governs these governments, is on the continent of Africa. I mean, if you go to China or Japan, people tell you they use some old traditional things to help them govern. In India, they definitely use Hindu. You know, people use their own philosophies. But we condemn our philosophies. We criticize our traditional philosophies. We despise our ancestors. We don't even name their names. We are the ones who forget. We are people of amnesia. The mothers and fathers of civilization with amnesia. What is that? Where did that come from? How did we come to this position? Well, we came to this position because of the centuries of European domination. I know that, and you know that too, but I'm just saying, why can't we get ourselves out of that? You see? That's what and that's what I said we need to deal with this. And I think there were people who tried to do that. And that's why we offered Afrocentricity. Because we know that we must renounce and reject the attempt of other people to set Africa's agenda. And that now brings me to the NGOs. All over Africa, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of NGOs. Did you all hear about the arrest in Egypt a couple of months ago of 19 Americans?
Yes.
They were arrested. They were NGOs. They were arrested because the new government came into power and did not know what Mubarak's government's arrangement had been. So you got these Americans running around Cairo giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to different groups and community groups in Cairo, encouraging them to do all kinds of political action, saying that they're promoting democracy. Some of the groups, American groups, were supported by the Republican Party. Some of them supported by the Democratic Party. And they're all just spreading money all over Cairo. So the new guys who come into power in Cairo, they say, well, we see this, we don't know what this is. They arrest the people and put them in jail. And America said, you can't do that. You can't arrest these people. They're doing our business. But the Egyptians said, but they're not doing our business. They're undermining our government. Look, let me tell you. The NGO organization works for the organization that pays them. It doesn't work for an African organization. That's not its ultimate, master. The ultimate master, the people who give you your money. And I'm not saying they don't do some good. There's some that have done some good. But overall, they are agents within a society, and they often undermine the legitimate authority of the traditions. And this is the pattern. Look, this was the same pattern that was used with the missionaries. Well, what do you think the missionaries did? When the missionaries went to Africa, one of the things they did was to take young children, young people, educate those young people, train those young people, and those young people, even if they were only 16 and 17 years of age, they felt like they were smarter than the elder who was 80 years old because they knew the Bible. You see what I'm saying? So what you've got then is you've got an undermining of the traditional values of Africa on the basis of the missionary project. This is the same. The NGO is the same thing. It's a missionary project. And so you have to, we have to realize that they can't be setting the agenda. Because everywhere in Africa I've ever been, I've seen that agenda set. I was at the University of Ibadan, and they were telling me what the projects were going on in the sociology department. And all the sociology department projects that were being funded, having money coming to them, was money coming in to do research white people wanted to do, not research that had been generated from the African base itself. And so if you could work with a white professor from England or from the United States, you can get some money to your professorate. And that's what was happening. And that's a pattern of control. It's a pattern to set your agenda, to tell you what is a legitimate subject to be studied. And so all the time, this is a problem that Africa has. This is a problem we have. Now, how do we see the continent? Let me tell you how the Afrocentrists see the continent, and I'll say a few words about Obama's policy, and then we'll try to round this off with some specific examples. First, we see a united and strong Africa. The United States of Africa. That's our objective. That's the objective of Afrocentricity International. It was the objective of the African Union. We don't know what's going to happen since the death of Gaddafi, but that was the big push. The African Union idea, this notion of the United States of Africa. The second one is using African resources for the quality of life in Africa. That's an item. That's what we see, the continent. We see using resources for the quality of life. For example, in Africa, where you have in Zimbabwe, you have a fourth of all the world's diamonds. There's no reason why those diamonds should not be used for the quality of life in Zimbabwe. You have half of the world's cobalt in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There's no reason why that should not uplift the entire nation of the Congo, you see. You have copper in Zambia and copper in Congo. I mean, those two countries produce most of the world's copper. There's no reason why that should not lift the continent. But I'm going to tell you what some of the problems are. But I'm just saying, this to me, these are Pan-African dreams, that we should have a resolution of ethnic conflicts. And but what we see is that the Western world highlights these crises, promotes these crises, that in fact this is the fundamental strategy toward Africa from the very beginning of Europe. This is the whole struggle. People don't even understand the Rwanda situation, for example, and the Eastern Congo situation. They don't understand. They have limited understanding, and we sometimes have limited understanding of even genocide in Rwanda, the horrible genocide in Rwanda, because we don't recognize what had happened prior to the genocide. We start with the genocide. You can't start with the genocide. You got to start with democracy. You got to start with the shooting down of the airplane of the president. You see, you can't be forced into an agenda that the West has. It's very important. I mean, this is another question. We can talk about it in discussion later. People must also feel secure in their health and security. And if you take nation by nation, I told you I would say a little bit about Côte d'Ivoire. The trial of Biden was supposed to be, I think, June, if my memory is correct. And yet, if you've been keeping up with the news, you know that Biden has been having trouble paying his lawyer. And now, part of the accusation is that he embezzled so much money. But yet the man is looking for somebody to help him pay his attorney. And he's looking for somebody to pay his attorney because he did not have a fortune. He had 2 houses in Côte d'Ivoire. But he was not, he has not embezzled millions of dollars. However, Ouattara has kept up a campaign of terror in Côte d'Ivoire. Even just yesterday, I heard that they're going to people's homes at 2 a.m. in the morning, harassing people. Yes. You know, this is going on right now. I mean, not only is that happening where you have the disruption of life in Côte d'Ivoire, you have humiliation. Brothers and sisters, can you believe that many of the principal leaders of the Côte d'Ivoire government are French? Ouattara brought French in from Paris, put him in office. That basically the sovereignty of the Ivory Coast is gone. There is no sovereignty. There's no sovereignty. They lost their sovereignty because it's been given to the French. Yeah. This is now. Did Obama support Sarkozy? Yes, he did. He took the same position Sarkozy took. And just a few days ago, the IMF turned down, they went for a loan. IMF, I said turn it down, you can't get a loan. We want the people to continue to suffer. So the situation in Cote d'Ivoire is a situation that probably could have been alleviated if we had on the United States side a strong president who would stand up to Sarkozy on this issue. But if you don't understand French policy in West Africa, you will make a mistake. You would think that France is there to do good. If France does not have West Africa, France is nothing.
Right.
Y'all understand that? Y'all don't understand it. Let me back up. The reason French became industrialized was because of Haiti. They lost Haiti. When they lost Haiti, then they went for West Africa. And West Africa supplies a buck of the minerals and resources that France needs. And they have to make sure that West Africa, particularly Cote d'Ivoire, stay in the French colony. This is true. This is real politics. I mean, right now, Portugal is having a hard time. But you know what Portugal is trying to do? Go back and borrow money from Angola. Absolutely. You have to understand how this game is played. The idea is, as long as you can keep Africa weak, and the African nations just supply material, supply money, that's fine. The West will do fine. And the danger, the problem that the West has right now with China is competing for the same resources. They got 8,000 Chinese in Zimbabwe. Because what the Chinese do is they're going to build a road, they bring all the people from China. Build a road. They have to have their own facilities and so on, food and everything, services. You see. So you have a settlement that's coming. This is what, and it's all using African resources. In Sierra Leone just leased to the Chinese 500,000 hectares of land for rubber production. They just leased 65, this is last week, or the week before, they just leased 6,500 hectares to Belgium for for palm oil production. Not just leased it to them for 50 years. With the option of renewing for 21 more years. It's a lifetime. That's what our leaders are doing in Africa. We can't raise rice and rubber and palm oil. Come on, what is this about? You see, and these are the big issues. You see, let me tell you something. What we have learned in this most brutal of all ages is that politicians in the West and many other places, even in Africa, tend to be callous. And they always seek what I call bureaucratic responses to human conditions. Obama finds himself on the cross. He's crucified by indecision. He exhibits confusion in political policy toward Africa. And as head of the empire, he must seek profit from Africa and security for the United States, even to the detriment of Africa. Let me tell you something. The policy, it is what American policy toward Africa is. There are 4 principles, and they've stated these over and over again. Hillary Clinton, she stated them. People in the African Affairs Bureau, they've stated them 4 policies. Number 1, these are priorities. First one, security assistance. America's interest in Africa, they stated it, is security assistance. Now here's what security assistance means. Security assistance means selling you weapons. That's what it means. Or training your army, basically. You know what I'm saying? So we'll train your army we'll sell you weapons and machine guns. Then we'll do that. Security assistance, number one. Number two, promote democracy. You got to have fair elections. You got to oversee it. Make sure you got fair elections. That's that. Any country that wants fair elections and want to work for that, we'll support you. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Then the third one, market-led economic growth. If you open your doors, if you reduce your rules so that any nation and any people and any company anywhere in the world can come in and do business without any rules or regulations, you are a market-led economic country, and we like that. We will support you. Because all of our companies can come over there and do business. Maybe you give us a tax abatement for 10 years. And they just do business and they hire your people, and it's a win-win situation. We do business over there for cheap, and you get employment. That's the third. Fourth one, HIV/AIDS support. We spend billions of dollars for HIV/AIDS support. Those are the four main American objectives. That's what all Obama says. When Obama says, Africa, you got to claim your future, then he laid down these four. These are four areas. We're willing to partner with you. Now, the partner with Africa in terms of security assistance is a very scary business. Because what comes to my mind by that security assistance is a whole question of AFRICOM. And the nations that didn't want it, like Libya, you see what happened to Gaddafi? You say, I don't want AFRICOM in my territory. South Africa has said it didn't want it either. We don't know how that's going to work out. But this notion of military intervention in African nations on the part of the United States government when it wills, when it wants to, and to use the creation of military bases. More military bases in Africa have been created under Obama than even under Bush, and Bush created more than all the presidents before him. We got military. It's amazing. We driving on some back road in Senegal and come up on American soldiers, or if they're not American soldiers, they're French soldiers. Where these white folk coming from? All these white folk, all these black people, and white folk, white troops. What's going on here, man? This is Africa. Right now, 2012, 324, in country after country. So you have to raise this question: what is this? What is this security assistance? They say the security assistance is about protecting America. It is not about protecting Africa now. It's called security assistance, but it is to make sure that trans-border movements of people and materials don't get in the hands of the terrorists. Anything, if you are an African nation and you say we got a terrorist problem, the United States gives you some money. We got a terrorist problem. We think somebody may be coming across the border. I think it's Coney. Okay. He's enlisting children. Now Coney's been out there for 20 years. But now he's Uganda. You need some money. Right? Central African Republic. You need some money. Any issue like that. Now the big, this issue with Mali. Y'all been watching it. I heard some people talking about Mali, right? There's a whole issue with Mali. Look at what happened. The Tamashek people who were supporting Libya, after the fall of the Gaddafi regime, they moved back home to Mali, and they come back home with guns, sophisticated weapons. And they say no more than 2,000 of them, but they're all armed to the teeth. They began taking over towns and villages in the north of Mali. And then after that, you have battles going on between them and the government. And just recently, I think it was yesterday, day before yesterday, the military comes in, takes over the government from Amadou Touré, who is the president. Amadou Touré is out of office, but now remember, Amadou Touré, that's how he got in office. He took over. Somebody said, well, he took over. He led a coup. Now, they led a coup against him. He's gone. And you know what they say? The soldiers say? They say he was not aggressive enough on fighting against these Tamashek people, so-called Tuaregs in the north. So now we have to lead this battle. Now, the United States, Mali is a United States ally. The United States, of course, is going to condemn the coup, but they want to support the leaders of the coup because they want to make sure that these Gaddafi remnants don't take over Mali. Because Mali belongs to the United States. That is the thinking that they got up here. I was not say up here, down there in Washington, but we in Washington, right? Y'all live in this place. I don't live here, but y'all know this place. That's what they're doing. They're discussing that right now. You see at the Pentagon and all these places. They're trying to figure out how we going to control, how we going to keep Mali in the column, particularly if these Tamashek people are more armed and more organized than the military of Mali. And I don't know. I don't even want to say that the United States encouraged the coup. I'm not going to say that. But I'm just thinking that that's possibility. You know what I'm saying? Because the United States has trained, over the last few years, the United States government has trained 100,000 African soldiers. And they train them in modern warfare. That's what they train them. This is security assistance. We will assist you. And if you want to talk about security, that's something that's really big. Now, the promoting of democracy, that's all that's about election. All we want is election. We don't care what kind of election, just have an election. Election becomes synonymous with democracy in this vocabulary. And then of course, the HIV/AIDS support. That's the one good quality, I think, about this policy, because it has benefited people on the African continent. The question is, though, how much has it benefited American companies? Let me just say this, because people don't understand this. I talk to many Americans, and they don't understand it. When Obama's government says we have 4 priorities. We're going to do security assistance, promote democracy, market-led growth, HIV/AIDS support. Then they said, we're going to put this much money behind it. The money is not like freely given to African countries. Most people think, you talk to most Republicans, and many of them don't know much at all. But you talk to them, they say, we just gave $5 billion to such and such country. No, you didn't. You told the country that here's a grant. And you know what you say when you give them the grant? Here's a grant for $5 billion. You got to spend $4 billion with American companies. No, I'm telling you, that's what they're writing in there. You have to spend the other $1 billion has to be with American consultants. So that ultimately, what you think they just gave $5 billion to somebody. No, they don't. You know these people not that dumb. They ain't gonna do that. No, they give you money. It helps the employment situation in America. So if you say you're going to help, with transportation and whatever country in Africa, you give them the money to give back to you. That's the way it works. That's how you give. That's how you do it. And when you do that, then of course you help your own economy. Okay, I'm coming to a close on this in a minute. I just want to say a few things about Zimbabwe and a couple other issues, and then I'll be finished. Just last week, the European nations lifted sanctions against 20 of the 51 people who were still left on the list of sanctions in Zimbabwe. But these 51 people include some entities as well. And they had lifted 35 sanctions on people in 2011, the European nations. Now, America has said, well, they're not ready to lift any sanctions yet. And part of what this is about, everybody knows now that they fear that Zimbabwe is going to get even tougher because Zimbabwe is now proposing an indigenization law. I'm glad. And the indigenization law is that no outsiders can own any of the gold mines and any of the minerals of the country. You got to be a citizen of Zimbabwe if you're going to own minerals. It's a law. And it's about time they do that. So now this is contrary to what has happened all in other countries in Africa. Others just giving up. So you want the uranium, you got it. You can do whatever uranium mining, whatever you can. You can do it. And Zimbabwe has taken a very muscular position on this. So now the sanctions, the U.S. says no, we still going to hold sanctions on Zimbabwe. And because we still think that we don't like their land policies, we don't like their corruption, we don't even like the fact that Zimbabwe served with the Democratic Republic of Congo army, and they supported the Democratic Republic of Congo. We don't like that either. Because, of course, America supports Rwanda. It's another, one day we can get into all these little situations, but y'all don't know what all is going on. Some of y'all know. But Rwanda is like a darling of the United States right now. But Rwanda is largely responsible in many ways for the unrest in Eastern Congo. So this whole thing of turbulence in Eastern Congo that creates a situation of instability also leads to these rogue companies from the West coming in and getting all of the minerals they can from the mines in Eastern Congo. They get these money, and they feed the rebels with guns. You can have as many weapons as you want to. Just make sure you bring me that gold. Just keep that gold coming. Keep that gold coming. And this is a dangerous situation. People can't get out of Eastern Congo without going through Rwanda. They go to Rwanda. They don't come through Kinshasa with that stuff that they're stealing. So that's a big issue. But Zimbabwe supported the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now there's also some questions about whether Kabila, the young Kabila was really elected and all that. I've heard those discussions as well. I was in Kinshasa a year ago and a year and a half ago. And I mean, even before the election, people were talking about whether he was, and listen, we got to get over this too, whether he was really a Congolese or not. This is ridiculous. That was a ridiculous argument. But the argument was, well, his father adopted him. His father adopted him from another country. But nobody questioned whether or not the old man Kabila, who was killed, was Congolese. I don't think. But they did question whether or not his son was Congolese. So these are issues that have to be resolved as well in Africa. I mean, this is not like Ouattara. Because Ouattara, I'm just saying this as an aside, because some people say, well, what about Ouattara? Because Ouattara, when he was at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, he told people he was from Burkina Faso. So that's another issue. I won't get into that from your politics, but I'm just saying that this is there's a lot of stories around this stuff. But we got to get over ethnic situations in Africa. Generally, I really do. I think we got to deal with that. Okay, finally, let me just say a few words about Sudan. And there's so much, I'm not going to say, I got so much on Congo, but let me just say a few words about Sudan, and then I will definitely be finished. The word I want to say about Sudan is this. And I just wrote an article. It's on my website, on the articles. If you go to asante.net and you look under newspaper articles, there's an article called Arab Racism Raises Its Head in Sudan. I called it Arab racism because we often talk about white racism, right? there's also Arab racism. And we can't, I don't care what, it's not against Muslims. This is against racists. This is a different issue. And we have to get this in our head. And the reason I say this is important because I talked to some African American Muslims, and they don't want to condemn the Khartoum government for what it's doing to African people. And I'm saying, wait a minute. The African people that are being persecuted, many of them, most of them are Muslims. The people in Darfur are Muslims. The Khartoum government is basically brutalizing the Islamic people of Darfur. 99% of those people are Muslims, right? And they're brutalizing because they don't want the Africans to be Africans. They want them to be Arabs. Same thing's happening in Nubia. The Nubian Africans in the north of Sudan have already been, many of them have been actually moved from the north 800 miles away to over near Ethiopia because the Arabs want to control all of the north all the way up to the Egyptian border, probably to claim that no Africans ever lived in that area, which is basically a stealing of the ancient African heritage of Kush. Do you see, these are the issues that to me, if somebody was in the Obama, if y'all know somebody in the Obama administration, I don't know those people. Somebody who is intelligent up there, they need to understand African history, but they don't know continental history. And because they don't understand it, I always tell people, go read my book, The History of Africa. And if you read the history of Africa, you see all these connections, and you'll understand this. I'm going to finish now and say I thank you very much for listening, and onward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asante. We're going to start the Q&A session in a few minutes, but I think I have some announcements to make. And there is the Afro-Colombian Women Activism and Leadership Conference on March the 27th, 2012, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the IPS Conference Room. The address is 1112 16th Street, Northwest, at Suite 600, Washington, D.C. And there is also a conference on the Free Pan-African.
On the 25th in Washington, D.C.
25th of May, right?
And
okay, so the Free Pan-African USA, led by Brother Leo Nyawa, is putting together a conference on Ivory Coast on May the 25th, 2012.
D.C. and 26 in New York.
About 26 in New York, 25th in Washington, D.C. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Asante. Let's give a standing ovation to Dr. Asante. You might not agree with anything he said, but is like he said, we have to learn to appreciate our own people.
That's right.
And then maybe in 100 years, when all of us will be gone, and then there will be some Africans and people Africans, when they read his books, they will maybe they will question how we relate to Dr. Asante when he was alive. Did we do like those people who were scared of Malcolm X when he was here? Who did not want to embrace his vision, and then future generation went after he was assassinated, and they told themselves that Malcolm X was like a giant in this country, or the same thing for several leaders in Africa or in the America. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, if you have one question, you can give. I made that promise like several months ago. And Dr. Asante also has 4 or 5 books of his newest book. It's outside. It's $25 a piece. And Dr. Ituk has also some books here, right? Yeah, he has some books, and I think one is about From David Walker to Barack Obama. And Dr. Asante mentioned that book. So I would like you to.
And there's a.
I would like you to. If you can support, our people who are trying to do those things, that would be fine. If they can go here and if you can buy a couple of books, and we have of course Anna Mwalago. She has some CDs out there, so you can go and purchase them. Thank you very much, and Vati.
I would like to say good afternoon to Dr. Asante.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
I would like, on behalf of the Africans and Ivorian in particular from New Jersey, to say thank you for the opportunity and learning about Africa. I want to say good afternoon to all Africans here, especially people from Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire. My intervention will be twofold. The first one will be to announce a great event, a historical, I would say historical. I'm getting emotional because it's related directly to Mr. Bagbo being incarcerated in Holland. And this event is in regard to getting money. As you mentioned, Mr. Bagbo is struggling to pay for his lawyers. We are putting together an event in New Jersey on the 31st of March in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey. And we're inviting all Africans and Ivorian nationals to participate and bring the support. We want them to come over and spend some money to help pay for the lawyers. There will be, as key speakers, we will have two special counsels, Mr. Bernard Houdin, who is his childhood friend, and his deputy, who's Dr. Claude Koudou, who's a teacher, a professor in Paris. So this is one, I would like to share that with everybody here. And the second one is, I want to thank you for bringing to our attention the fact that Africans have no historical consciousness. It is mind-boggling that Europeans in 1828 had made such a set of assertion, and nobody, no scholars from Africa has tried to educate the masses, as you said. I stand before you here as the chairman of a small organization which is taking a small step to educate the masses. As you said, it is not of a great benefit to go to the top and try to educate them because they are already educated anyway. But we want to go to the masses. Therefore, the small organization that I put together is trying to educate those masses. Now, the question is this. Mr. Obama, who brought hope to all Africans in terms of bringing stability to Africa and get rid of all these coup d'etat, has not done very much for Africa. In fact, Mr. Obama contributed to the destabilization of Africa by helping to trample and disregard the Constitution of the Ivory Coast, helping to bomb the presidential palace when the Constitution says that president will be put in place by via of elections. The president has asked. Give me one more minute. President, I know. Just one more minute.
One.
So,
let me talk because you came from New Jersey, but now it took 2
I know. I traveled so far, 300 to get here. And I know everybody's forgiving me for that. What I want to say is, what is the strategy that Africans must put in place to put pressure to Obama to commit to Africa? Thank you, Dr. Asante.
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me just say that's a good question.
Dr. Asante, we're going to take 2 questions at a time.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Okay, I'll try to remember it. Thank you.
You want me to read?
No. Don't come back here. Okay, sir, go ahead.
How you doing, brother? I came late, so you might have answered that question already. I went to the Trayvon Martin demonstration.
Yes.
Anyway, so I got here late.
You can hear you.
So I got here late. So you might comment on what I have to say.
The mic.
Yeah, okay. Can you comment on the implications of the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, showing up in Libya at the time of Muammar Gaddafi's capture and prosecution of murder in violation of international law, Geneva Convention, Nuremberg trials, and everything else? And as the Secretary of State, and then Obama as president over top of that, and the timing, as and whether or not that thing was staged, or whether her showing up right in time, was they capturing him, the implications of that. And then can you comment on the accuracy of whether or not these videos are out about Muammar Gaddafi being terrorized, if that's true or false, and then the implications of that beyond international law. And these people sitting around talking about Allahu Akbar, which is a total violation of, you don't even sacrifice an animal in Islam the way they did him. So can you comment on that and its meaning for any kind of leadership in that kind of arena of a Gaddafi for us on this planet?
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, so to the... Yeah, what African leaders can do to put pressure on Obama. I think really there are very few leaders in Africa that can do that. And the African Union is extremely weak, really, because 40% of its budget comes from Europe, from the European Union. So we have a big problem. That's why we appreciated Gaddafi so much, is because Gaddafi was able to fund many ventures in Africa on the basis of the Libyan economy. I went to a conference in 2004 that Gaddafi paid for in Senegal. There were like maybe 1,000 people there that Gaddafi paid for. So we don't have anybody like that now in Africa. The killing, and this goes right into the question the brother asked regarding the abuse of the body and the life of Gaddafi. The killing of Gaddafi was one of the things, that the West hated most was Gaddafi, because Gaddafi had said that he would not be a part of the Southern European strategy, that they wanted to have Northern Africa a part of Southern Europe. He said, I wouldn't be a part of that because I'm an African, and I take Africa as a legitimate province of his own life and support. The Arabs didn't like him. Many of them didn't, because he had said in the Green Book that it was the black people who was going to come to power in the next century. And then, of course, the people in Benghazi have always been mainly Europeanized. That's one of the most Europeanized cities in Libya. And you see now the attacks on the black people. I've seen some incredible videos, not just what they did to Gaddafi himself, but what they have been doing to the Africans, the black people in Libya. There's some horrible videos. People in cages right now. Yep. And being whipped and taunted and called very negative names. The people who have come to power in Libya, really some of the most rabid racists in the Arab world. So we are in serious trouble. So I think those two questions, I think what I would love to see is that there be 2 or 3 people rising to power like Mugabe, who is an independent thinker and is able to try to operate independently, but they're putting squeeze on him, even though he has turned his face toward China, which is good, because when they said you can go to London and New York, he said, well, Shanghai is 3 times as big as New York. So I don't care. I go to Shanghai. But ultimately, what we have to have is we got to have a strong sense of the African population rising up to create leaders that are bold and leaders who will speak out of Africa's interests. Did he ask about Ivory?
Yes, Doctor. I'm coming back because in response to my question, you said, and my apologies to Brother Gnaka, my question was directed to the Africans here in the United States.
I see.
How do we put pressure? How do we organize with pressure?
I see. Okay, good. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed the question. Yeah.
It's not your fault, because it was long.
Thank you, Brother Doctor. Yeah, right. Well, what you already have started doing it by having your association, your organization. What politicians do, they respond in this country a lot of times to organizations. And particularly in New Jersey, unfortunately, you've lost Donald Payne. Payne in many areas he supported us. I don't know what his support was on Cote d'Ivoire, but he did support. Okay. Well, then you need to find politicians in your area, and then those people you need to go meet with them. They will meet with you. I mean, one of the things I've discovered by just being, I'm working with the Sudanese right now. And one of the things I've discovered is that, you call them up sometimes and say, let me give you a briefing. And they want you to come to the office and tell them about this. Because a lot of times they don't know. So just call them up, and put pressure on them to put pressure on Obama. Thank you.
Okay, that's Cissé.
Doctor, thank you very much for being here today with us. And I appreciate your comment. And I appreciate your boldness. If we have just 50 like you in the African continent, I think the federation process will move in a dramatic way and most forceful way. My comment is what I want to say. Africa has become a peanut farm, and I'm not going to talk much about it. Just like once in a time when this country, United States, was a peanut farm for Europeans when they come here and do whatever they want to do without anybody obstructing them. And that's what we're facing in the African continent today. And when you have a peanut farm, squirrels, monkeys, and all kinds of animals will come in and just spray on it as they want, because there is no protection. So therefore, we need a federation for Africa. That's what we need right now. When we have a federation, then we can speak boldly. Then we can say no to this and no to that one. And also what I want to say about Obama, because that's the issue we are here today. I used to love Obama so much in the first rounds when he was running for president, because we thought he's one of us is coming and he's going to help Africa in so much. But Obama failed us. The reason why Obama failed us, one, he contributed to the death of our hero, Muammar Gaddafi, a man, a country which was the economic powerhouse for the whole of Africa towards African Federation. So what I want to ask you, Doctor, because as for me, my vote is counted in this November coming election for Obama. So why did you want to tell the people in here today, and also the people that are in here, what message should they send to other people who are not there, or people who are in Europe, where like England, where David Cameron and Sarkozy in France are? What should they do in their coming election not to get these people back re-elected?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on.
I'm sorry.
Good evening, Dr. Asante. First of all, thank you for all the work you've been doing for African people. Quick question. You mentioned earlier about clash of civilization, right? And my question to you, if as African people, whether on the continent or here, we can't defend our family, our children, from whether it's European or Chinese, do we even deserve to go into the next century as a people, or should we just count it that we have been defeated and these are stronger people? What is your opinion on that?
I appreciate the question. All right. The first question, what should we do in terms of electing or not electing these people? I think the black people, for example, in Paris, will certainly not vote for Sarkozy. I know that. I mean, that's now the question is, in the United States, black people will vote for Obama. Now, here's the question. The question is, will the vote for Obama this term as strong as it was the last time? I don't think so. And I think the reason for it is because precisely what the questioner has raised, and that is that people are disappointed, people disillusioned, people feel like Obama did not do all that he could have done. Now, he claims, Obama's people will claim that the Republicans blocked him. And that's true. I mean, the Republicans did block him. But what most of us were saying, what I was saying, was that maybe you should just be a one-term president. You should go in and kick their butts, and go ahead and say what you want to say, speak out, become an iconic figure, a symbolic figure, and so forth. And of course, you may not be re-elected, but you would have made a statement that would have been strong and historic, and so forth. But most people said he was trying to follow a strategy of trying to be re-elected. And if you're trying to be re-elected, then you don't necessarily say the bold things. That's a problem. So my statement to the audience when I said that given the Republicans, I would vote for Obama. That's because I see the situation like we have seen it in the past when we had two white people running. When you have two white people running, most black people vote for the liberal one. So I'm going to vote for the liberal candidate. Even though that's not necessarily the perfect candidate. That's the way I put it. And that's why I sort of differ with my good friend Cornel West, who's a really brilliant and wonderful man. But my position is that I cannot say that I'm not going to vote for Obama given what the opposition is. I would much prefer Obama. But I do think Obama has failed us in Africa, and I am only hoping that he will do better in his second term. Now, to the other question is really a very powerful question because it gets at the heart of our African condition. If we, and it goes right back to Marcus Garvey and so many people, and shake out the joke. By the way, someone was saying whether or not Africa not helped us. Well, Sheikh Anta's Job was an African historian who did speak to the whole historical question, by the way, the Senegalese scholar. But if you look at this question of the weakness of Africa, I think the weakness of Africa is not inherent. The weakness of Africa is because we have not been able or willing to risk our lives and our careers for the interest of Africa. See, this is the decision that all mature people make. There comes a time you can't take any more abuse. And that's what I think we have not done. I remember once, let me talk now from African American point of view, growing up in Georgia. I remember in 1972 when I first went to Africa, to the continent. I went to the continent and I was standing in line in Nigeria at the post office, and some white guy walks all the way from the back to the front of the line. Well, I'm an African American. I said, what the hell are you doing? I said, you can't do that. Well, all the brothers and sisters from the continent looked at me like I was crazy. I said, wait a minute. I said, this is a problem. No. And I saw this problem over and over again. I saw this problem when I lived in Zimbabwe. When I lived in Zimbabwe, I had white people say some of the most racist things. And then I would always shock them because I won't say everything I said, but I'll tell you this. I always started by saying, I'm not from here, I'm from Chicago. And they just back right up. Just back right up. They don't need, I'm from what, Southwest Washington or somewhere. Southeast, wherever I'm from one of the places. Don't mess with me. But what I'm saying is that we are the most beautiful, generous, open-handed, and open-hearted people I know. Yes. And this is what happened in Ghana. You remember this is what happened to the Nana Kwesi when the Portuguese came. He said his words, and his words were beautiful words. I mean, there's this powerful words in 1482. He says, "We greet you with open arms. We bear no weapons. Come and eat with us." You know what white folks said? These are children. They can easily be taken over. They greeting us, bringing us gifts,
putting gold down on the beach. Like, wait a minute. You know, we like this. We can take these people over. We don't have that. And I'm not saying we should have it, but I think that what we need to do is to raise questions about our own sense of accepting this after so many years. We've done it so many years. Now we just have to say you back up off of it. Whether they're Chinese or European, don't matter. You just don't do that anymore. All right, sorry.
Thank you, Doctor. My name is Dadielo. I wanted to go back to the very, basic of this entire debate about Africa, because what I realized myself, and I took my reflection from what one of my brother taught me. His name is Dago Francis. In Ivory Coast, most people have three names. You got your French name. Okay, let me start with the African name. You got your parent name, so your family name, the name your father gave you, and then there is a French name people call le nom de baptême, which is like when you get baptized. Yeah. He loves more his French name than he does with his family name. And I went back in 2007 in Ivory Coast, and he told me openly, I hate my African name. Now, when I think about the entire things, what comes to my mind is that we might think that Africans don't want or are not able to get out of this entire canvas of thought where they are totally lost. But I think it is a policy that's been put there from the beginning, and you even touch on that on that one. From the very beginning, where people are so brainwashed, not only by the media, by the entourage, and anything else, that at the end, they dislike themselves. And so my question is, how we get out of this? It's not about the government. I'm talking about the individual here. How are we getting out of this mentality of self-abandoned mind? How do we get out of it?
We are getting out of it, and the way we get out of it is the way we get out of it is to be Afrocentric. And to be Afrocentric means this: that we have to teach our brothers and sisters that they always begin with themselves when they want to do anything. If this question of name, this is not just a problem that affects people and on the continent. It affects people in the Caribbean and South America. I've seen it in Brazil. It's the same problem in the U.S. right here with black people. It's the same issue. What it is what you have said. It is a self-hatred. And it's a self-hatred that basically we've been indoctrinated to believe and to internalize the notion that somehow a European name, because there's no such thing as a Christian name. I mean, what it is a European name. The European name is better than an African name. And what I always say to people is when they tell me their European name, I tell them, I say, well, what is your real name, your African name? And I force them to say their African name because I think that one of the great sadnesses to many and to our history is that our ancestors no longer hear their names because we have abandoned their names. And this abandonment must stop, but it must stop with each of us. We have to raise this question with our peers and so forth. But I think we're getting out of it. I think it's happening. I see it happening over and over again. I've seen so many people who just decided. I mean, this gentleman from Nubia, whose name, because the Arabs forced him to get an Arab name, so they called him Khalid Jarrah. And Khalid Jarrah says, you know what? I abandoned that name. I became Tanudaman, which is an ancient Nubian name. And I said, that's correct. That is exactly what you must do. You go back and you find your own name, or you find a name that is, significant for your people and your ancestors. This is what we have to do. I think. But you're on to something. Thank you,
Dr. Asante. Thank you again for being here and for what you have said to us. But I have a comment and I think a question. My comment first is in the words of one of my sheroes who passed, Dr. Wangari Maathai. She had come, I believe it was like a few years back, and she was at the Kenya embassy, and an American stood up and asked her a question, and I can never forget this because he asked her, he said, I'm so sorry that I don't know so much about Kenya and about Africa. I apologize for that. But she said, you don't need to be sorry. The thing is, you as an American, America makes sure that it teaches you so much about America. It is us Africans who have not taught our children about Africa as much as we need to teach them. So I think for me, my comment will be, as African leaders, we should put in our curriculum history about African people, the fights, all that, from Marcus Garvey to Dedan Kimathi to all the leaders who stood by us, because I think when you start teaching a child, somebody as young, that becomes ingrained in them. But sometimes we must have grown with colonialism and the change of names and all that, so we really don't know our history. So I think our education should also make sure that now they make sure that they implement that in our schools in Africa. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you know about the situation of the people who are supposed to go to The Hague in Kenya, if you can comment about that.
The people who were supposed to go to The Hague in Kenya? I don't.
ICC. The ICC, yes.
The election.
Oh,
yes.
There was electoral program in Kenya. The same thing they do in Ivory Coast. They're going in Congo. There's some people in Kenya. Well, it's in the news, but myself, I don't know the details.
It's about the son of what you call him.
No, if it hasn't, so
the son of the.
Wait, hold on. If you okay, I can explain briefly, and then if you don't know it, then maybe we can revisit another time. But the situation that happened in 2007, I believe, was very unfortunate in Kenya, and there was some irregulations, and now we have a coalition government. But it was very unfortunate because a lot of people were killed and murdered just because of their ethnic group. And because of that, there are some leaders who are part of the parliament then and now who supposedly instigated some of these fights. So now there are 4 of them that are now going to their trials in the ICC.
But
well, the only thing I can say, I'm just tired of the ICC and the Europeans thinking that they have the right to try anybody, because they have done so much dirt, so much wrong, and almost all the people they're bringing to trial are Africans. I think that somebody, if you're going to have an investigation and a hearing, why can't the AU do it? I mean, the African Union ought to be strong enough to have the African court hear these things. I am just tired of people being taken to Europe for this. That's just my only comment, but I don't know the details, and I don't want to get into it.
The only problem is that, if I may say something, that the only problem is that, as you say, the African Union is weak.
Yeah.
So in itself, it also has a lot of corruption that even the people themselves don't believe and trust in it. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon, Professor Molefi. Really want to praise you for all the effort. I want to praise you for all the effort you've done with the Afrocentric consciousness that you raised. My name is Nyawa. That's the name I use in my community. My father named me Leopold, which is
Leopold is rough.
Exactly. One of the genocidal.
But my father named me Arthur. That's kind of rough too.
So originally, when I came to the first conference of Dr. Gnaka, I announced my intention to create a Marcus Garvey movement in Ivory Coast, because the main problems with African is mentality. They colonized, enslaved us. The physical part, you can deal with it. The mental part, that's the most puzzling, I'll try to be extremely brief. Most puzzling part, I put together a group when I realized that Babu wasn't going to win, and I couldn't go along with my attempt to create a Garvey movement, to create a resistance movement to resist what the French are doing, because it's recolonization that's happening in Africa now. So it's called Crippled African USA, and we put this conference together. My main problem is that what are we resisting? Are we resisting only in the Ivorian community? That shocked me. Many Ivorians say, well, we want to put Gbagbo back in power. This is fine. But the Ivorians, and many of my community got problems with me for that. The Ivorians have been so brainwashed. And the Ivorian is basically a French person. His belief system is totally Christian. Even during the crisis, you see Ivorian like go to the church or the man that brought to his religion and rely on his God to save them. I'm seeing Ivorian that with it, the head of the army, youth, when they call the youth to come, I won't give information about my own younger brothers that volunteer, because I don't know who's here, and they're still in the country. But you have the general of the army that go tell the youth, go back home, the Lord of the L'Eternel des Armées, which is Jesus Christ, will fight our battle. And you have people in the church, Jesus will save us. And they are not doing, there's no, even in our community here, we call conferences. You go to church tomorrow, see a lot of them will go to church, which is fine. But when you say we got to save our country, Jesus will do that for us. So the point I'm making is that we've been so brainwashed by his religion, his value system, even at the books that's taught in the school were printed in French. Yeah. Mind control. So this is my issue. When we talk about resistance, yes, we want to hand the French control of our country, get our sovereignty back. But how do we gain that sense of Africanness back? How we incorporate in the struggle with organizations like mine? If I can get any input.
This is a very powerful question, and it goes to the heart of the work we're doing in Afrocentricity International. There is a book by Sister Ama Mazama. Maybe one year you guys will have her speak here. Ama Mazama, she's from Guadeloupe. She's a leading female Afrocentric theorist. She's written a book called Imperative Afrocentricity. And she has also written a book on Afrocentricity. And these are two books that have spoken to the same issue, because it's not just in Côte d'Ivoire that this issue is. It is in Martinique, in Guadeloupe, it is in Mali, it is in Senegal, it is in wherever the French are, is there. Just like in the English world, it's the same thing. Your resistance is a resistance to domination. That's what it has to be. Your resistance has to be a resistance to domination in every sector of life, including religion. People ask me, well, what's your religion? I say, I'm an African. They say, well, what does that mean? I say, when you ask a Jew, what does a Jew tell you? I'm a Jew. I'm an African. That's my religion. They say, well, what kind of religion is that? It's my way of life. I live like an African. That's my way of life. What's your value system based on? It's based on my ancestors. What inspires you? My shrine in my house to my ancestors. That inspires me. Well, what do you believe about what's the most valuable thing in the world? As my ancestors have said, it's character, not love. Character. That's an African concept. That character is more important than anything. And the Yoruba had it correct. And when Ifa says, if you have education and you do not have character, the education doesn't belong to you. If you have children and you don't have character, your children don't belong to you. That's why God says, Ifa says, that the best thing to have always is character. That's what I live by. That's good character. Iwa Pele, as the Yoruba say. So you have to have an African base. If you don't have an African base, the Muslims will mess you up and the Christians will mess you up. And the Hindu and the Buddhists will mess you up. And you see black people and everything. We're the most fanatics about all of them. You know, I'm serious. I've traveled all over Africa. And the most fanatic Muslims are black. Not the Arabs. And the most fanatic Christians are black. Not the Europeans. So you say, well, what is going on here? How have they transferred their stuff to us and got people praying to a white Jesus and kneeling to a white Pope and kissing his hand? What kind of foolishness is that? I'm sorry, I don't want to get into it, but I don't understand it. I mean, it shakes me up. I'm like, what is this? This is dangerous stuff. You cannot, there is no way, if you show me your religion and it is not the religion of your ancestors, you're only showing me the religion of your conquerors. I don't want to see the religion of your conquerors. But I don't want to get into religion because I know how black people are about religion. Y'all get really upset.
Okay. This lady praying for Africa.
Yeah.
Maybe to a diva Jesus second. Well, my question is to you, sir, great elder. It appears that we have a redemption or a salvation through Pan-Africanism. But yet, I think that to many people who don't understand Pan-Africanism, they don't understand the tenets of it. How can Pan-African become basic of Garvey, of C.L.R. James and others?
Thank you very much. Okay, good question. And the final question here. So let me just, I think this is a good one to wrap up with. Wow, it has so many pieces to it. I want to make a distinction here. Pan-Africanism is a political idea that was basically rooted in the concept that African people, all African people, and ultimately all African ethnic groups and so on, should be united. That was the notion of Pan-Africanism. But Pan-Africanism, without a substantive ideological position, becomes rhetoric. It becomes like, I'm a Pan-Africanist, but what does that mean? So your question is to that point. That's why we propose the notion of Afrocentricity. Because what we say is that wherever you are in the African world or in the world generally, an African person can become a Pan-Africanist by virtue of saying that I first look for African agency. And by looking for African agency, in terms of my Pan-Africanism, it's like an engine for the Pan-African movement. Otherwise, Pan-Africanism stands out there as almost like a category that's out there, but is not filled up with anything. You have to fill it up with an ideological position. And that ideological position has always been the one, it seems to me, that has helped to drive the people forward. So that's what I would do. I would say, study the Pan-Africanists, the great Pan-Africans. That's what I did. I studied them. I read Garvey and Sheikh Anta Diop and Kwame Nkrumah. These were the main sources. And then, of course, once you study them, though, I also wanted to look for what are the patterns in each one of these people, and there were others, that I saw. And what I saw most was that the commonality had to be that they were all trying to eliminate Europe in their minds. That's what they were trying to do. Everybody's trying to get rid of Europe in their minds. And that's our big process. I mean, you won't be able to get rid of all of it, and I'm not saying you should get rid of all of it. But I am saying that it should not be, Europe should not be the driving force of your life. And that's the thing. You have to be able to see that. And only Afrocentricity, I think, has been put to deal with that. Negritude at one time, and quilombismo in Brazil. These are two ideologies. The quilombismo in Brazil was put forward by Abdias do Nascimento. The notion that African people should basically circle around their own culture and their own values and move from that strength upward. And then
the notion of negritude, what was basically in aesthetics, in terms of art and literature, that there was an African concept of beauty and goodness and so forth. But Afrocentricity was, we said, is in everything. It's like when I walk into this room as an Afrocentrist, my question is, where are the African colors? Where are the African symbols? Where are the African designs? If I were, as an African person, designing this room on the basis of my own philosophy and culture, would I choose these symbols in this country? You see what I mean? That's the question I had, and it's a radical question because it goes back to the heart of what is black and African? What's tradition? What's yours? I mean, this is what, and I ask that everywhere. If you're going to build a building, why can't you build a modern building on the basis of the traditions of our ancestors? It doesn't have to be built like it was 200 years ago. You can use modern materials, build designs, and create beautiful cities. That's why I'm not going to do another lecture. But I have never seen an African city. I've seen European cities in Africa. I've never seen an African university. Maybe there is one. I've seen European universities in Africa. I've never seen an African government. I've seen European governments in Africa. I want to see an African government.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asante. Thank you. Let's do like our brother. Let's give another standing ovation to Dr. Asante. So thank you very much, Dr. Asante. And we're going to take your proposition to invite your friend to maybe this year or maybe next year. And for all of you who came, thank you for making time in your schedule to be here. And we want to build a growing network of people so that we can come at least once a month. Our next conference is on April the 28th in the same room. It's going to be about the CFA, the relationship between the global recession, the Eurozone crisis, and the future of the CFA zone. We have two brothers who are going to come here and educate us on that issue. And before we leave, Anna Molago for the last performance.
All right, let me see what I can do.
You can do it.
I know everyone wants to go, so before you go, I want to do a poem to challenge all of us. This poem is on my first CD, and it's called I Have a Dream. And to me, I probably want to change it to not a dream, but a reality. Yes. And this is called, it's a poem that I wrote because I was inspired by so many people. Mama way, mama way. They say that I come from the dark continent, Africa. They say that I come from the dark continent, Africa. The last time I checked the word dark in the dictionary, it meant evil or wickedness, without knowledge or enlightenment, a state of ignorance, difficult to understand, the absence of light. But I still believe in Africa, and I'm proud to be an African, because even though my continent has been marred by civil wars, ethnic wars, tribal wars, and HIV and AIDS is killing people in masses, while the world watches and the media shows with no remorse, please do not let the media fool you, because to them news is only when it bleeds, it reads. But I'm not going to abandon my people, and I am not going to disown my ancestors, and no matter what they say, I am not going to deny my race. Instead, I have chosen to stand up for Africa. I have chosen to defend my history, protect my land, eliminate the perpetrators and their wickedness, and declare peace in the name of justice. Let us not forget that Africa is the richest continent in natural resources, from gold to diamond, rubber to copper, timber to oil. Africa Africa is widely known for its tourism industry. Africa exports tea, coffee, just to name a few. Africa is beautifully endowed with the Great Rift Valley, the Victoria Falls, the pyramids, the oceans, the seas, and even its people. And now, 80% of the world's supply of coltan, a mineral that is used to manufacture cell phones and computers and PlayStations in the whole world, is found in Africa. Tell me, what darkness comes from all this light? Yet some of our people want to turn our blessings, letting their flesh control their spirit, making a brother kill his own brother, kill his own father, rape his own mother and his own sister in the name of money, power, riches, and fame. Why are we failing to see the big picture that if we stand up together, rid ourselves of all the corrupt leaders, we can attain riches beyond our imagination, for we are already rich. And if we have to trade, let us not exchange our minerals for cheaper change, while the Western world reaps all the benefits. Let us not exchange our minerals for arms to kill our own people, who then will stand for us if we cannot stand together for ourselves. Instead, let us exchange our minerals for better machinery and technology so that we can become self-sufficient. And instead of depending on the West, we can all work together. For if we let our selfish interests control us, some of our leaders putting our lives on the line just to fatten their big fat bellies, then we are saying that we did not learn from colonization and slavery. And it will be sad to say that history repeats itself. Why are we helping to build other continents and nations while we watch Mother Africa crumble and fall? I am crying for revolution, and I am searching for followers, and I am looking for peacemakers. And until the world says that there shall be no more blood, no more rape, no more poverty on my cell phone, no more blood, no more rape, no more poverty on my diamonds, no more blood, no more rape, no more poverty on my gold, and no more blood, no more rape, no more poverty in my oil. We as a people need to stand up together and defend what is ours, fight for what is ours, own what is ours, in peace and not in war. So just like Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, I too have a dream. I have a dream that now is the time that all the African heads of state will come together and speak in one voice and together form and create one country, one continent. The United States of Africa. The United States of Africa. So listen to our mothers, ancestors calling. For when Mama Africa calls, we must answer. And I know that we shall get to the mountain top. Thank you. Thank you so much. I do have my CDs outside. Thank you again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, on your way out, please, if you want to give it a contribution so that we can organize this conference. Thank you very much.